Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video, I'm starting off with a spread for my reading journal. I recently finished reading Be My Baby season 2. You know, around like the end of June, I was like, oh, I need to have like a mid-year check-in and see how I'm doing with my reading goals. And I realized I'm so far behind on reading all the manhwas that I wanted to. So I was like, I need to finish one of the ones that's on my list. So I decided to finish reading season 2. I had to start and finish reading season 2 of Be My Baby. If you don't know what Be My Baby is, it's a manhwa. It's a comedy romance specifically. The story is so, like the setup of the story is so silly. So basically this is set in, I don't know if it's supposed to be like near future in South Korea or if this is just supposed to be like an alternative timeline or something like that. But basically in this world, they have a lot of advanced genetic technology. And the main character of the story, Sunwoo, he is a really smart doctor and he's come up with this program that's essentially like an artificial womb. And this idiot decides to implant it in himself. And for the longest time, Sunwoo has had the biggest crush on the older brother of one of his friends. And very specifically, he thinks that his friend's older brother, his name is Eun-gyo, by the way, he thinks that Eun-gyo is the perfect specimen. Like, he thinks he's the perfect man. And he kind of is, because his parents also have something to do with like, I don't know, all this genetic technology. And so like they've essentially created him to be perfect. And so throughout season 1, he is constantly asking Eun-gyo for, you know, his biological material, if you know what I mean. And one day Eun-gyo kind of just snaps. He's like, you know what? I've had it with you. If you want, you know, my baby making material, fine, you can have it. And so they sleep together. But remember, Sunwoo has implanted this egg, as they call it, inside of his body. So what do you think happens? Yeah, fertilization. Sunwoo gets pregnant. Essentially, Sunwoo gets pregnant. So this is, again, it's not an Omegaverse story. And he's not, you know, pregnant because it's this like artificial womb inside of him. So he can't even like carry the baby around. Like they have to cut it out of him at some point and like put it in like an incubator or something like that. So that's essentially what happens in season 1. I guess this is a slight spoiler, sorry, but the way season 1 ends is with Sunwoo telling Eun-gyo that he's the father. You are the father. I think I put that in my last spread when I made a spread about season 1. It's like, I'm pregnant and this is your baby. So season 2 picks up right from that exact moment. And I will say, as funny as the series is, I definitely liked season 1 better. Season 2 felt like it dragged on and on and on. I think it's because it felt like there was no more conflict, because in season 1, a lot of like what was going on was Sunwoo finding out he was pregnant. Like, you know, there were all these signs and then realizing, oh, I'm pregnant, and realizing, oh, he's the father, and then being like, I gotta tell him about that. Like that was the whole thing. But you know, once season 2 begins, it's like, well, he knows. And so most of season 2, I would say, is more so from Eun-gyo's point of view, and he's just essentially denying his feelings. It's a pride thing for him because he spent a lot of time pretending like he did not like Sunwoo, even though, you know, obviously if you hate someone, why are you continuing to interact with them at all? Like obviously he liked him, but he can't admit those feelings, and like he wants someone to just like, I don't know, magically understand him or something. And so that's the main thing with season 2. It's just like not even miscommunication, more just like a lack of communication at all. I guess it was nice to see Eun-gyo kind of start to fawn over Sunwoo, but yeah, it just took forever and it dragged on a lot, and I literally found myself kind of skimming it. There's a lot of stuff in there about like the legality of, you know, oh, like Eun-gyo is going to be the father, you need to do this, like parental custody, and you know, these waivers about the fact that he's been involved in this experiment, like all this legal stuff. And while I'm sure that is, you know, very true, I didn't care. I genuinely think you could read the first couple chapters of season 2 and then read the last chapter and not really miss anything. It was very funny though the whole time, and also I just in general highly recommend reading the series. But even if you just like skim through it, it's such like a delight to see a web comic format being used in the way that it was. The way the paneling is in this story is just like incredible. It is just so unique and so interesting. I don't know how the artist did that. Also, I think I said this before too, the artist was working on this other series called Antidote that the English version of it got canceled. And I'm so sad because it was so interesting and I love her art style. I do think this is a fun take on an impreg story, and I do think it's really, really funny. I'm not sure what I would give the whole entire manhwa as a whole, like for a star rating, but I definitely, like I said, I did not like this season as much, but it's definitely still worth reading. Like I did have a fun time. The last spread that I'm making in today's video is also for my reading journal, and this one is for a manga series called Blue Proustian Moment. and it's actually a GL series. I feel so bad for not reading more GL series, but I saw this one either last year or at the beginning of this year. It was definitely like colder whenever I saw it, and I was like, oh, I have to save that for summer. It seems like it's just right up my alley, and it was exactly the sort of story that I wanted. As I'm recording this, I've only read volume 1. I was planning on reading all of it, but last night I was on the phone for 5 hours because no one cares what I would like to do with my own personal free time. So I'm planning on reading it hopefully later today. Today is Sunday, July 19th. So I kind of want to read the rest of it today, but as you'll see during the writing portion, I did leave some space like towards the bottom of the spread. So if I wanted to add more thoughts, I could. Anyway, this series is about a girl who is like very much so prim and proper. Her father is like an entrepreneur. He's reinvigorating this town that they live in. It's like seaside Japan, very beautiful. Her name is Kazuki, and she's just rich, a bit naive. She goes to this all-girls school, so again, very prim and proper, and even the other girls at the school are like a bit scared of her because she's very strict. And then one day she's walking along by the seaside and she catches this whiff of citrus perfume, and it's this girl. That girl's named Mocha, and she's essentially the exact opposite of Kazuki. She is wearing her uniform skirt way too short, and like the wind is blowing, and Kazuki sees her underwear and she's immediately like blushing like, oh my gosh, like this delinquent. And as you may or may not know, I love when two characters meet in a way that is kind of like sleazy. Like one of them seems like they're up to no good. I don't know what it is about that, but it always ends up getting me. Like those always end up being the best relationships. And so Kazuki and Mocha keep kind of bumping into each other here and there in town. And very clearly Mocha is from a undeveloped part of the city, very low income still. They're definitely from different worlds. And Kazuki, I think, realizes this. And that's also one of my favorite aspects of the story. I love whenever a story explores class as well. Something about characters, one being rich, the other one being poor, and just the circumstances that people find themselves in. And especially how like blind and just like living in ignorance, living in bliss that people with money can be. Like they don't know anything. But even though Kazuki is like that, she is still a good person. Like she stands up for Mocha multiple times. And even though Mocha understands that like obviously they are from these different worlds, she cannot help but like Kazuki. She's just so amused by her. And that's essentially what has been going on so far with what I've read. We haven't gotten a lot about Mocha's backstory, but it does look like at the beginning of, I think it's chapter 7, that there's some scenes, some flashbacks and stuff that Mocha has gone through. She's living a really terrible life. Like her boyfriend at one point beats her up. She seems like she lives with her older brother, but like where are their parents? And also I think he's trying to do his best to keep her like on the straight and narrow, but obviously like he's an adult, he has to go to work, like he doesn't know what she's doing while he's gone. He tells her to go to school, but like does she? And then Kazuki, because she's been so sheltered, I definitely think she's going to start grasping the reality of the fact that like her dad is taking this town and like tearing it apart, and it's negatively affecting the people that have been there for a very long time. I love the tension in the story so far. I love how it feels like they're kind of doomed. I can't wait to see how their relationship progresses, because right now it's kind of like nothing other than Mocha being a bit flirty when they first met. Oh, also this story is set during 2012, which I thought was kind of fun. There's not anything like particularly 2012 about it, but I think the fact that they're not just like constantly on their phones does make me feel a bit nostalgic, even though like of course back then I was 15 in 2012 so like of course I had a phone, but it was just like I don't know what I was doing, but I was not always on my phone. Similar to now, I've never been a phone person. I'm really a big screen person, so I was probably on my laptop equally wasting my time, but still I was not on my phone. I also really like the art style. I think it's pretty, but also like there are a lot of funny moments as well, and it suits that too, especially like Mocha cracking up laughing at Kazuki. I love the story so far. I don't know what else could happen in it that would make me hate it, but I don't know. I will try to give some updated thoughts maybe whenever I do my July reading wrap up, because like I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to get to the other volumes, but I hope I do. I think there's 2 more volumes, right? I don't even know. But now that I'm finished with this spread, we can go put all the spreads that we made today into my digital journals. Y'all will never believe what I did last night. I made a new webkinz account. I used to have at least 50 webkinz. I say it as if I don't still have them. I physically have the stuffed animals still, but I don't know about that account. I feel like when I was looking it up before, they were saying like they possibly can recover it, but like also I still have all of my old codes, and like obviously I know all of my pets' names, and also I have their birth certificates printed out. But anyway, I made a new one. I made a penguin, even though I used to have a penguin before. My old penguin was named Patty. I refused to not give my webkinz alliteration names. Like my first webkinz was a reindeer named Renee. But anyway, my new penguin is named Eloise. I'm kind of sad that the free version of Webkinz doesn't really allow you to do everything. Like, you can't even send gifts in the mail to your friends anymore. I also don't know if your friends can come over to your house, and it does give this vibe of like, what's the point? My best friend and I used to spend so much time playing Webkinz together, and she's the one who made a Webkinz, and she was like, you should make one too, and I was like, say less. I wanted us to be able to relive our childhood memories, but whatever, I suppose. I understand. I want Webkinz to stay afloat. I know they need to make money, but it's been so fun. Actually, I'm honestly probably about to start playing again because I want to get some more money so I can get some more stuff for my house. But after a very long week of using all of my free time to apply for jobs, boo, I think that making a Webkinz to end the week has been a lot of fun. Anyway, thank you for watching today's video. Everything I used in today's spreads will be in my Pinterest board. The link to that is in the description box, along with the links to all of my other social media accounts, as well as the links to all of the Google Drive folders for all of my journal deco kits. If you have any questions, please let me know and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you, as always, for all of your kind, generous support. It really means a lot to me. I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.